Hello again, and welcome. Michael Pizzolla here. I'd like to welcome you to this edition of the ValueCapping Rant. This is the 2020 Preakness Stakes edition. Now, for those of you who don't want to hear an in-depth analysis of pace scenarios and all of that, I'll make this very quick, and you can go on about your day. Okay. The software that I use, which is ValueCapper, is pointing to the same two colts that the public will probably be betting. And that is Authentic and Art Collector. See them? They're right on top. They're the morning line favorites. Deservedly so. Are there some potential long shots lurking? Are those long shots really value bets? Are they worth a prime bet? Well, for that, you're going to have to tune in for more. But if you just want to see what ValueCapper has done with the race, here. It's no big surprise. You don't need me or a computer program to show you those are the best colts in the race. Okay, for those of you who don't know me, my name is Michael Pizzolla. I am the author of the best-selling book, Handicapping Magic. I am the co-author also of Pace Makes the Race. I'm the creator of the original online racing forum, which is now known as Post Time Daily 2.0. Great product, fully customizable. You can find it at posttimedaily.com. Also, the developer of the Black Magic family of handicapping software, the latest iteration of which is ValueCapper. And I'd invite you. Look, I'm not here to, hawk software, okay? Just so you know. But there is a free value capping course that explains the principles of value capping. You go to valuecapper.com, put in your first name and email. You'll get a video every couple of days to your email box. If you don't want to hear anything about the actual software, skip the fourth video, okay? But especially the first couple that explains the principles of value capping, which is the value capping framework and value capping versus handicapping. They're not the same, okay? So I'd invite you. It's great. It's free. I think you'll enjoy it, and you'll find it useful. And you'll find these principles of the value capping framework. I truly believe you'll find them useful no matter what kind of handicapper you are, which is to bet horses you like that the public shouldn't. Preferably, those horses should be running against vulnerable favorites, so those really super good value bets. And then comes the inner game, if you will, that you need to wait for your price. No price, no bet. And finally, you let the bet make you. In other words, you have enough experience that you get the sense when you really have the advantage. Okay. Now, a few important points. I do this for every video where I talk about a race that is yet to be run. One, this is not a touting video. Never been a tout, never will, never sold selections, period, end of story. It's to demonstrate the principles of value capping, what I do with races I would play, what I do with races I would pass. Two, I'm making this video late Wednesday, early Thursday, before the Saturday of the Preakness. I don't have scratches. I don't have weather changes. Interestingly, when I went to look yesterday at the weather, it showed that Friday looked like rain in Baltimore. Sunday looked like rain in Baltimore. Monday looked like rain in Baltimore. Somehow Saturday's going to be sunny. All right, which means I don't know if it's going to be a wet track or not. That will could affect scratches. It could affect a lot of things. Third thing, software, numbers, whatever. All of that are just tools, no black box. Okay, just because, I got a lot of emails and messages from some of you, and thank you very much. Boy, you nailed the Derby. Yeah, well, it's not a black box. I still didn't think the Derby was a very good betting race. And finally, look, value investment potentials. They are price dependent. So again, no adequate price, no bet. And price is not value. They are not the same thing. So my advice is do your work not for the winners and not just to bet a price horse, but to find value. Okay? So value doesn't mean just price. And I find a lot of players forcing bets looking for price rather than value. Now, before getting to the 2020 Preakness Stakes, I mentioned the Derby. Thank you so much for your kind words. These are slides that I use in my presentation for the Derby. And you'll see at the top, separated from the rest of the field, are 'Tis the Law and Authentic. Okay, they're right there. This is another slide that I use. Authentic 1, as you know, actually paid a pretty good price of 8-1. Although Authentic was 8-1 on my odds line. So I didn't think it was a great bet. 'Tis the Law, obviously, went off as the heavy favorite. Honor AP wound up finishing 4th. So, for all the talk I do about value, it doesn't mean you can, it helps to have a really good odds line and a view of the race. And I think that, ValueCapper took apart this field of 3-year-old colts and came up with what I think is a very good call on the race. Now, making a very good call does not mean that you'll have a bet in the race. On one scenario, if all the speed collapsed, I could see Sole Volante closing, which is what I said. And, he didn't. Authentic wired the field. I would have needed something in the range of, higher than 8-1 anyway, so I'd have some kind of overlay in order to bet that horse in a, 16 horse field. But they finished 1-2. And, for those of you who said, I just boxed them, and you got a $41, $42 exacta, and, wonderful. That's great. And I'm happy. But again, this is not a touting video. All right, let's get to how ValueCapper sees the 2020 Preakness. As I gave you a sneak preview before, it's got Authentic on top, and then a gap, and then Art Collector, and then a gap, and then Live Your Beast Life, and then a gap to New York Traffic and Pneumatic. This is a very choppy line, if you will. So, I'm facing something that happens every day. The public has gotten really good. I mean, if you're watching this on YouTube, just look at how many videos are out there with people using, pretty good numbers and pretty good techniques that I think 20 years ago weren't as widely available. And certainly when I started in this whole game, over 30 years ago, oh boy, you could just, very, very few people had good incremental velocity numbers. So I want to take you through looking at alternative pace position scenarios in the Preakness. Now, why am I doing this? Well, the software I use, this is something I developed, a while ago, even before the original Blackmagic software, and now, of course, it's still, and very refined, I might add, in the ValueCapper software, gives a pace and position projection. Now, a lot of things have to go right for those scenarios to come out, all right? I mean, obviously. Because as I understand, now I don't have this, I haven't confirmed this, but I have been told by sources close to the jockey room that the jockeys actually can read the racing form. Okay, so if they think that one horse is likely to try to steal the race, they might try to stay closer. Or if there are a bunch of horses who want the lead and a jockey is on an early horse, he may take them back. Okay, so this is based on projections, based on pure numbers. And based on those pure numbers, the Preakness comes up highly pressured on the positional side and unpressured on the position and velocity side. And so ValueCapper sets the race up with an early bias because of the unpressured. Now, I'm not a big fan where I don't have the scenario verified by velocity. The reason it does that is because rather than using pure position or pure velocity, this, which is called acupressure, looks at every race and every horse's past performance, does a lot of work internally. The computer does it. And it shows that Live Your Beast Life could have the lead easily. Now, there's a question as to whether Live Your Beast Life belongs in the field and so forth, if he's going to be able to run with these. Not surprisingly, Swiss Skydiver and Authentic are right behind in that projection. But based on those gaps in the first and second call, ValueCapper made the acupressure scenario unpressured. Now, again, that assessment is from a combination of velocity and position. Now, positionally, there are many horses that tend to run near the lead. I'm not going to go through what I did in the Derby video because it would be redundant. If you want to see how that technique is done, trust me. The computer confirms it. The software confirms it. You can see it by eye. A lot of horses that, like to run close to the lead. So when you get that many, the positional nature of that race will tend to be pressured. In other words, favoring a late horse. So if I set up the race with a late bias, and you see up there on the upper right that just, click on late, what happens? Lo and behold, Authentic and Art Collector are still there. Now, into those other horses below that gap after Art Collector, Swiss Skydiver, she sneaks in there, and Live Your Beast Life drops all the way out. Okay, which kind of makes sense. It might be what we used to call, quote-unquote, cheap speed. Now, if you want to split the difference, you'd set the race up with a neutral bias. So I set it up in neutral. And again, we have Authentic and Art Collector. And again, we have 4 or 3 long shots. I think Swiss Skydiver will take some money. But we have New York Traffic, Pneumatic, and Live Your Beast Life. So the moral of this story is that, once again, it looks like the public will land on the same colts as ValueCapper. And in the Derby, I tried playing with different scenarios. Here I'm trying to play with different scenarios. Look, champion horses and champion colts and champion fillies are champions for a reason. They, they're really good. Okay, let's take a quick look. Speaking of really good, and here's Authentic. I don't know where that number came from in the Derby, but it was a pretty good number. This is a colt that's won 5 of its 6 lifetime races, and he lost the Santa Anita Derby just by a bit. I think had a little trouble in that race, if I recall. I thought got a very good ride in the Derby, and won for fun. So what do you say about a colt that has, in its last 3 races, it's got 2 consecutive wins in its last 2 races in Grade 1s, and a second before that is only second in its life. A Grade 2 and a Grade 3 before that, one at First Asking, has got 2 pretty impressive workouts since the Kentucky Derby, both of which were bullets, 1 out of 38 on September 19th and 1 out of 37 on September 28th. This is a colt to be reckoned with, yeah? And it was kind of overlooked. As I said, in that big a field, I did not think 8-1 was enough. But you look back and you think, geez, $18 horse, I should have taken that. Look, I've got those instincts as well, at least an exacta and so forth. But it wasn't really a strong betting race for me. The colt that will most probably be the second choice of the public is Art Collector. Now, Art Collector's on a layoff since August 20th. I'm not too concerned about that. If you look at its layoff between November 30th and and May 17th, it won relatively easy from off the pace. If I had to look for a knock against a colt that's won 4 out of 4 this year and is on a winning streak of 5 consecutive races, the only knock I have is that it's not been doing it in Grade 1 company. I did win the Bluegrass this year, earlier this year at Keeneland, which is a Grade 2, not to denigrate it. That's a pretty good race. Again, these are strong horses. If I go third down on my line, I've got Live Your Beast Life, and it's a big drop down, right? Now, this colt broke its maiden in claiming company back in 2019 at Belmont. Its most recent win, it's only got 2 lifetime wins, was an allowance race at Saratoga. And then it finished second in the Jim Dandy, which is obviously a nice grade 2 race at Saratoga. So this is where you get a combination of numbers. The horse, if this colt didn't have good numbers, it wouldn't show up third on the line. And then the judgment part comes in. Is it worth a bet? Is it worth a bet given, where the numbers are from, what the competition is in the field? And that's just, that takes a little bit of judgment. I'll tell you what I would do with it by looking at the summary screen of ValueCapper. New York Traffic, again, another very decent horse, just missed winning the Haskell. This was a bit of a hot horse, or a wise guy horse in the Derby, and quite frankly, he didn't run very well. And this colt's last win was also in an allowance. I'm not, turning cartwheels over this one. And the other colt that shows up on the line is Pneumatic. Another one on a layoff since August. I'm not concerned about that. If you look, it won at first asking. It won on a layoff between February and April of this year. It won on a layoff between June and August of this year. Yeah, so the layoff doesn't concern me. It finished 4th in the Belmont. Okay. It just won the Pegasus. Okay, good. $155,000 race. It's good. It's won 3 out of its 5 lifetime races. So good. Just its numbers aren't as strong as the others. Finally, the one that gets brought up on neutral and late biases is the filly Swiss Skydiver. Don't know much what to say about it. When she ran in the Bluegrass, she finished second. All the rest have been against fillies. And look, I have to just go on numbers on this, and her numbers just aren't that strong. Could she get into the exotics? Sure. So where does that leave us? Okay, on the early bias and the original, we have Authentic and Art Collector. Do I want to bet them? No, they're not going to be prices. How do I know that? I have a contention line. The contention line is what I think the public will do based on the raw data in the past performances. I also have that confirmed by the morning line. 9-5 on Authentic, 5-2 on Art Collector. So once again, after all the analysis, after all the number crunching, after all the pace scenarios, it looks like the public will land on the same colts as ValueCapper. And again, you don't need me or a computer program to tell you Authentic is the top colt in the race. But if you do, Authentic is the top colt in the race. Okay. And the question is, can we find value elsewhere from a prime bet? I don't think so. I really don't. If I look back at the, pardon me for going backwards like that, technically, the value investment potential horse is the 11 Live Your Beast Life. I would have to get a very, very long price, somewhere around 25 or 30 to 1, to even take a recreational bet on this colt. Why would I bet it? Well, okay, you could say, I don't have much wrong to say about Authentic. Maybe it's tired of so many winning races or something. Art Collector, you might, it's on a layoff. Yeah, it's won on layoffs before, bullet workouts. Oh. See, this is where quote-unquote horse players get in trouble. You see a price and you want to rationalize your way to it. I just don't see any good sense in betting against those. I don't have a really excellent reason to do so. Live Your Bet. Now, okay, so to make a case for Live Your Beast Life, based on acupressure, it could have a lead. The mile and 3/16 at Pimlico can take both styles of running, and that's true whether the track comes up sloppy or it's dry. So, yeah, is it a potential? I don't think this is a prime bet, but at, again, 25 or 30 to 1, I have a target. The target says 19 to 1. I want more than that. Okay. I want 25, 30 to 1, and then I'll put a small recreational bet. But again, they have the same Colts. The public will have the same Colts as ValueCapper has. I'll remind you once again that on big days, good value opportunities often appear in the undercards. So take a look at the undercards, not just at Pimlico, but at the other tracks. Unfortunately, as I'm making this video, the Pimlico undercard is the only one that I have that are taken in Vegas. So just like we did on Derby Day, and by the way, go look at the 2020 Kentucky Derby value capping rant. This was a horse I was pretty strong on. It was called Sonneman, and it ran in the 9th race on Derby Day, the Pat Day Mile. And this is a slide I took right from the video. And you can go look at that video, which I posted, well in advance of Derby Day. And I wanted 12 to 1 on the horse. I was going to use 3 in the exotics. I got my price. Sonneman went off at almost 26 to 1. Finished a good closing second. It was a highly pressured race. Looked like it would favor the closers. Earned a $16 place price, and I like to play little wheel exactas, and that $2 exacta paid $146. So I think there are some gems in the undercards. Now, unfortunately, there aren't. I don't feel strongly about any of the undercard races at Pimlico. There are a couple I'll keep my eye on. The 3rd race at Pimlico on Preakness Day, October 3rd, 2020. There's a pretty strong filly or mare. I don't remember how old she is. It's impolite to ask, apparently, about female horses' ages. Anyway, so Challen has got a pretty good gap over the rest of the field. No real flaws. If I were looking, S.W. Briar Rose, the 2, can close a little bit in a highly pressured race. The 6 furlongs at Pimlico have been running a little late lately. The odds ratio of 5 to 1 on my odds line, 12 to 1, what I think the public will do, which agrees, by the way, with the morning line. If I were to get 10 to 1 on that, I would take a look at betting. And then in the very next race, the 4th race at Pimlico, it's a turf race. There's an interesting horse on top, Caravel. All that this filly has done is won 3 races in a row, 2 on the turf, 1 on the dirt. Now, the turf races that she's won have been 5 furlongs. And the race on Preakness Day is a mile. This is the hilltop. Can she stretch out? I don't know. At a price, I say yes. At no price, I say no. Now, the public might bet it because why? Well, she's 3 for 3. The public might not bet it because, well, she hasn't beaten very much to be in a $100,000 race. They won't like that she's coming from Presque Isle Downs and so forth and so on. So I don't know what the crowd will do it, but, put 15 to 1 in front of me, I take this horse. And also looking at the 8, why I like this, look at that to use in the exotics, or at, again, another 20 to 1, 25 to 1 price. I might use that in the exotics. So nothing to get super excited about in the undercards at Pimlico, but there are a couple of possibilities. And I'll just tell you the odds ranges that I would look at. But again, the star attraction is the Preakness. I don't really see a very good reason to bet against Authentic and Art Collector. The reason not to bet them is that they're just not going to pay anything, and it's not worth the risk. In other words, there's no value. Will I take a recreational bet, a quote-unquote action bet? Yeah, I allow myself those on big days, but I still have to get my price. Okay, so if Live Your Beast Life is 25 to 1 and up, I'll take a shot. If any of those others, I don't know about that. I mean, I really it's a tough task with those kinds of gaps. I think the public has the Preakness right and will bet it correctly on Saturday. Well, I hope you enjoyed that. I hope you enjoyed. Those of you who are still here, thank you. I want to thank you so much for watching it. Those of you who are on the Wizards Forum, who have ValueCapper and all of that, thank you so much for your support, for supporting each other. I can't begin to tell you how much I appreciate it. So until next time, bet horses you like that the public shouldn't. Wait for your price and let the bet make you. I'll see you soon.